All right, so welcome to week 2 of this training on place-based learning. Just a quick overview that we are again aligned where we are. So in week 1, we did education systems, and basically we also defined the problem space in industrial education systems. We also looked at a few alternatives, but the main problem that we identified is that excessive indoor learning leads to an atrophy of the hippocampus. Now, it's a brain region that is very relevant or central for time and space memory connections. So this is what we did in the last week. Today, week 2, we're gonna focus on place-based learning, and we're gonna basically discuss 2 things. We're going to discuss how can we imagine such a transformation of industrial education so that children and youth can turn into urban rangers, living sensors, and transformation agents that can have a hand-on experience in an ecosystem that is larger than the school building or the classroom, that is really just maybe their entire hometown. And the older they get, even larger areas, maybe the region. And the second part is the bioregional education concept, which we have here, bioregional education as a separate block in the overview. So we're going to ask ourselves, how can we turn place-based education into a global approach? We will discuss the pilot project in St. Pölten, and we will discuss how this pilot project can be a template for scaling place-based education and merging it with bioregional education. And since you have both been already active, I think we can also share a little bit our experience in regard to this. Is this good? All right. So then before we continue, I actually share something different because part of the training is always that in the first 15 minutes, we're going to review the assignments. And I shared with you, I think, this document. Let's see if this works. This doesn't work. So probably I need to go here into the full view. So I shared with you a link in the chat, and this link includes a PowerPoint where you have a course overview. And then for each session or each week, there are a couple of assignments. So for week 1, we had 4 tech talks, each a few minutes. And then the assignment was to write a very little summary. And the 5th assignment was optional, pick any topic from the content that we discussed, and also write a little review that you can share with the others. So actually you didn't upload anything, so probably you either did it in a different way or you didn't do it. What's the status?
I have done the first one, but I wanted to upload them all together. And last week I wanted to focus more on the article that I had to write for the website. But tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, for sure, I will finish them all.
Yuba, what's your status?
Also can upload tomorrow.
You really need to speak up. I don't even hear you here.
I can upload tomorrow.
Okay. So then maybe we don't discuss it at all and shift it also to next week. But the selected talks, I think, are really, really interesting. And just, yeah, maybe we don't even have to do it, but I think you will all 4 like them. And the fifth assignment is anyway, it's optional, yeah? Please try, if Notion works for you, try it. And if it doesn't work for you, let me know, because this is a new technology that we use actually for the assignments. Okay?
Yeah.
Good, then I stop sharing this. And we go back to the slide deck. Interesting that this never works. So why does this not work? Probably because I need to go out again and back in. Yeah. So now it should be working again. Right. So then apart from this, did anything of what we discussed last week, did this sink in and you thought, okay, this makes sense, you know, those little aha moments that come a bit afterwards? Was there anything that stuck with you that you thought a second time about?
Mm.
If not, no problem, but you know, that's already the 3-period lesson, always recalling what has happened.
In my case, I don't think I had any new revelations after the session. Yeah, I think every idea that I had, I already exposed it during the first session. Yeah.
Liuba, anything from your side?
I think only the same, but I have quite a big notes from the first session that's actually I think also through again. And, but yeah, it was more like the overall concept application that we discussed last time. So.
Okay, good. Then let's jump into this session. Since we discussed the problem space the last time, we tried to imagine the transformation and also what can green steps do to solve this problem. So we start with, I think, quite an important overview on the brain development. I mean, the last time we talked about the hippocampus now, and nowadays, I think most people already know about neuroplasticity, but not that many people actually also relate this to learning in general. And what you see here is a graph created by the Center on the Developing Child at the Harvard University. You see a blue curve, that's the ability to change in response to experiences. And you see that this ability of the brain to change decreases with age. So it's very high when you are very young. And I would say you reach at age 20 somehow a half time of the brain where you're about 50 or even below 50%. And then you have a curve that goes down, and the older you get, it's very, very small. And then you have, I would say, a yellow curve, which goes in the opposite direction, and it's about the amount of effort such change requires. And obviously, it's very little or none at all when you're very young. And when you're older, the effort becomes really a lot. Any ideas on this graph? I think it's quite logical. Hello?
Yeah, it's.
Right.
No, you go, Luba.
No, I just wanted to say that yes, I heard about the concept of neuroplasticity and read about it. And
I don't hear anything
You
almost.
really need to speak up.
I've heard about the concept of neuroplasticity and read about it. And yeah, this what I didn't think that and also the amount of effort, of course, like is rising. So this graph it kind of shows two sides of yeah what's required for change to happen. It's good to look at this in the combination, the ability and the also amount of effort that we need to.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, nothing to add?
not really. No, it's very clear, I think.
Yeah, it's very clear, but I think we need to apply it. Everybody talks about transformation, or a lot of people talk about necessary transformation nowadays with climate change, with, I don't know, consumer behavior and so on and so forth. And we have certain patterns. And it really shows that, you know, we need to actually really harvest and leverage education in the early years. If we want to make any change, it's not going to happen when people are adults. So I think that's an important takeaway here. Then in education, there is a very interesting so-called learning triangle. It's about the elementary competences of education. So this is what you basically want to achieve with education: knowledge, thinking, and communicating. And when I first saw this triangle, I felt like, sorry, what about action? I mean, whenever you hear students being frustrated about school, it's really that they spend most of the time in a theoretical environment. They think, they know, they can maybe talk about it, but they cannot apply it. And I think this is also very much what practical life is about, already starting at age 1.5 in the Montessori method. So you really use your hands and you do things. And I think this concept needs to be applied if we want to transform the industrial education system. So this is another Montessori quote here at the beginning. Please read it yourself, so I don't have to read it. Then we can quickly talk about it. What can you make out of this little paragraph? It's in the book that I think I gave both to you. I'm not sure actually if you have it, Liuba. Maria Montessori, The Absorbent Mind, where she discusses her anthropological observations as a doctor on how the human being develops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what can you maybe try to paraphrase what is in this paragraph? Or I try to ask in another way, how is it related to the graph from Harvard University that we just saw?
Oh, okay, maybe I can try to say. So basically, we're born with very high level of neuroplasticity to be able to quickly adapt and quickly become the part of the society and the world that we are born in, basically. And as far as we get more adapted, we don't really need that to be, you know, to be able to do the basic functions or the basic things to stay alive.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to paraphrase it. I mean, Mary, you're a zoologist, no? I mean, animals usually don't have to do that. She refers to the chicken, but animals
Yeah.
are more or less born ready, no? And they don't have this very long period to adapt, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And she has really made here a very distinct analysis of how it works with the human being. But we can also kind of reverse engineer this insight, because it means that during these early years, if you give a human being a certain environment, the brain is actually able to adapt to a pretty new environment. There are very negative examples. You might have heard of children that have been kept in a basement up till age 12 even. I read a case. And psychologists tried to help this child afterwards to basically regain or recover the capacities that a normal child that age should have. But it just doesn't work anymore. So children that are kept in a basement, they are deprived of this environment to unfold in a good and healthy way. And the result is that they are handicapped all their life. So in this case, actually, the child died as a young adult, um, being incapable of speaking, being incapable of any of social relationships. And I think this is a very extreme case, but if you think about it and think of how we are being kept in schools 98% of the time indoors, compared to how, let's say, 2 generations back, 3 generations back, and maybe even, let's say, 10, 20 generations back, children grew up, even in indigenous societies, then we can definitely make this analogy. We grow up very deprived of our environment and deprived of nature. Now it makes sense if you look at it this way,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Good. So actually remind me, or I need to remind myself that I show you a little graph about the change in space over 2 generations. It's really striking. So this principle, the principles of education, we saw that graph already. I just want to bring it once more. We talk a lot about resources. We talk a lot about content, how the time needs to be arranged. There's software that plans the weekly schedule in schools very, very precisely, and it needs to be done to manage teachers and students. But we talk much less about the attitude that is required in school, and space is quite explicitly actually left out. Now, here you see a very, very basic comparison, how Rudolf Steiner thought about human development related to education, how Maria Montessori thought about it, and how we think about it in Green Steps. So neither Steiner nor Montessori made a clear reference to space-specific learning, but you see that Steiner had 4 phases, and these 4 phases always lasted 7 years. First phase, physical development, so it means that you need a lot of physical education. It's really about body development. 7 to 14, emotional development. You build on the physical development and you develop the emotions. 14 to 21, intellectual development. This is where you start really to study and get higher information, more advanced information. And then at 21, you move into a self-development phase. I think this is also very interesting because nowadays, even in tertiary education, if you just think about the school that we have here next door, even tertiary education at 21 and later is very guided, and there's not a lot of self-guidance allowed. Maria Montessori broke down her development theory in 3-year periods. And you see it has a lot to do with consciousness. The first 3 years are subconsciously observed. Very interesting, this idea. because it makes learning automatic. 3 to 6 years, the child is conscious of what is being learned. 6 to 9, it has the ability to understand things. So also means before age 6, you cannot really understand, explain to children things. Whatever happens in a kindergarten, if they do something wrong, you can show them how to do it right, but it doesn't really help to scold them because they don't really understand, according to Montessori, until age 6 if they have done something wrong. 6 to 9, there is an active imagination, and one creates a personal code of ethics. And then 9 to 12, the human brain, according to Montessori, starts to think abstractly and enjoys big projects. But the inner order, what is happening inside, is more important than what is happening outside. So one does not care so much about structure, keeping things tidy. And then actually Montessori becomes a bit light. So she really focused more on the early years. She does not write that much about puberty and adolescence, or even about adulthood. And I don't say that any of this is, of course, wrong, but it is one perspective on learning that Steiner and Montessori provide. And at Green Steps, we focus on the zoning and also how learning, or which vehicle we use in learning. So in the first year, the child usually stays close to the mother or primary caretaker. We have observed this also, you might remember, in Jean Lidloff's book about the continuum concept, that in indigenous societies, the child usually stays very close to the mother during the first year, being always carried around during every activity. And the focus is very much on oral learning. So we know this also from other developmental psychologists, that it's all through the mouth, no? And usually you are in zone 0 or 1, at home in the house, or maybe in the garden, but always together, usually with the mother. And then in the second phase, the child still stays close to the primary caretaker, but explores larger territories in the vicinity of the home, or maybe also the school. So we are active in zone 1 and 2. In starting with around 9, there is the self-exploration of larger territories. You might remember that we talked a lot about Gary Snyder, this American anthropologist, and he also writes about the landscapes that we explore as children. And this is a big problem because in a lot of research, we notice that children nowadays are not anymore left alone. So this age of self-exploration is completely gone. It's not happening anymore. But children should be able to run around in zone 2 and 3, and this is not really happening anymore. And then again, at age 15, this would be our approach, where also the mobile campus can be applied very much, is that age 15 and up, I mean, we talk about young adults, they should actually be already self-sufficient and can explore on their own or in groups, like the scouts actually do it, their world in the larger regions. So we have this visualized, you know already this graph, systems understanding through zoning. The school building or the home is zone 0. Zone 1 is the garden, the immediate garden. Zone 2 is the hometown. Zone 3 could be the region. Zone 4 is the bioregion, something very large, and Zone 5, the planet. And if we look at this once again from the point of age and space, then basically up to the young adult and adult, you explore the entire planet, and then you have a reverse process setting in. And this is also what Gary Snyder described that usually people are born at the fireplace and they die at the fireplace. No, when you're old and feeble and you stop being able to walk, then you usually have much smaller areas that you explore until the time then that you die, which happened in the past also at the fireplace. So let's explore how we can combine place-based learning with bioregional learning. Here we also apply a Montessori method. It's the decimal system. Montessori has developed a lot of material that is used for children to teach them abstract concepts. One of such abstract concepts is the decimal system. And in order for children to understand this system, she uses pearls, beds of pearls. One pearl is a 1, 10 such pearls as a bed are 10, and they touch it with their hand now. So they get a manual understanding of this number. And then 100 is a sheet of 10 times 10 pearls, and 1,000 is a cube. So they hold a cube. And in this, with the manipulation of these objects, they get a hands-on understanding of a very abstract concept. In this case, it's the decimal concept. And I think that something very similar can be done with understanding the planet. The planet is something so large that it is very, very abstract to be understood. But if we start with something on a human scale, like a large tree that grows in the kindergarten, that grows in the school garden, then children can touch it and explore from this element, from this nature element, starting with this nature element, wider and wider spaces. And we can combine single such elements as mappings into a route. This would be then the 10, the bed. We can create several such routes to explore a commons, a hometown, which would be then the sheet of hundreds. And here we have an additional step. We have the bioregions. The bioregions would be then several of those sheets, and the cube would be the planet. So it's an analogy to also step by step get a better understanding of the ecosystem we live in. So what's the solution that we offer at Green Steps and we work with? It has three elements. It's the bioregional education, that we take in the flora and fauna, but also the culture of a certain region, that we try to gamify learning, and that as a result, we develop commons stewardship in the children and youth participating. And I notice quite often that it's also quite necessary for teachers. Just an example of a project that we had not too long ago, when I first visited the school and I talked to the biology teacher and I had a look around the school. She didn't even notice what kind of trees grow on the school grounds. As a biology teacher, this is really a sign of deep alienation if you do not know the place where you teach every day. So common nature can turn into the common ground instead of quite often in urban areas separating culture. So very nice quote that I found. Mary, actually, a side remark. We really need to watch this film At the End of the World. I think you will love it.
At the End of the World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end, Encounters at the End of the World, I think is the name. I have it also in the film database. So the director is Werner Herzog, and Werner Herzog did all different kinds of jobs, worked late night to finance his first camera, and he became a very, very famous documentary filmer. And he just walked around, no? And he knew that walking is basically our mode of transportation where we can get information at a pace where we can understand most. And so he usually just walks around, talks to people, observes things, and then creates really astonishing documentaries. And this is why he said, the world reveals itself to those who are on foot. There's a lot of wisdom in this one sentence, no? We drive nowadays in cars, we fly by plane, we go on high-speed trains, we sit in a bus, but we don't walk that much anymore. And that's why we believe that walking should be a very important vehicle of education and learning in schools. And schools should be pushing, teachers should be pushing their students to walk at least once a week, if not more often, into the different neighborhoods and districts that you have in your hometown. That's where you can see things and apply what you have learned. So the vision that we have is connection to the land and the bioregion, a deep connection where you can actually rename things and describe things that you see, a spiritual development and a sense of purpose, and a united humankind that is aware that we live in one large ecosystem that has, of course, many different parts, but in the end, it's just one spaceship. Environmental education, if it's structured well and uses technology as a means to really support the process of learning, can be an enormous opportunity. You see here a couple of things that happen as an outcome, and I think all the words mentioned here relate also to one or several of the issues that we currently experience in education. If I just pick one, we have an epidemic of mental health issues in schools, especially in upper secondary, but I noticed it's also already in lower secondary happening. And even if you talk to elementary teachers, you will hear that it has become very difficult to be a teacher nowadays. One reason I think definitely is that kids are mostly indoors in the classroom. It's not the only reason, but it's a main reason. Do you want to add anything to this?
No.
Not yet. Okay. So this is something that we already talked about. Green Steps thought about itself in several ways, and we did a benchmarking. One organization that we found is Buurtzorg. It's actually a nursing organization that started in the Netherlands, and it really inspired us and was sort of not only an inspiration, also a model into which direction Green Steps could evolve. So they put humanity over bureaucracy. So they're quite the opposite of a traditional hospital where you have a lot of bureaucracy. Instead of a hierarchy of doctors, nurses, and cleaning staff, it's team-based. It was founded by a nurse, and there are only nurses in the organization. It's decentralized decision-making, not a centralized decision-making. Employees can do a lot. So, and their potential is actually harvested and increased through a database that serves collective intelligence. And it's a very successful model. Buurtzorg covers already more than 60% of the Dutch health market. So they outperformed hospitals because they are more cost efficient, and people that work there, they are happy, both the clients and the staff. Now, what is obvious is that Buurtzorg is active in medical care, healthcare. What has this to do with Green Steps? Or when we talk generally about education, what has education to do with healthcare? I think a lot. And you might remember we watched Connection, this film. Yeah, so in connection, this Harvard teacher, this Harvard professor at the medical school, he also says that yes, restorative medicine is super important, and Western medicine has made a lot of progress. But what we have lost in the West is preventive medicine, so that people can actually really take care of themselves and not get sick in the first place. And I think this is also the role of education. If you educate properly, then you prevent disease. One very clear example is if you have children that are very obese, which is a huge issue in many countries, then I mean, preventive education would mean that you give them healthy food in school, that you teach them how to cook healthy, that you tell them what is not healthy, that you show them what not to buy. So there are many, many means that can prevent sickness. This happens in education, and I think this is where Green Steps can offer an additional value. Good. That was our first section for today. Do you want to have a few minutes break? We always have this kind of brainstorming and summary slide now after every section. How do you feel? Do you have anything to share?
To remember the connection between this example with medical system and the school system that can also work like in a different way to prevent the issues of mental health issues.
Yeah,
I mean, it's good.
I think it's super important. We don't think a lot that way. Mary?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. What?
She said it was super important to connect
Uh-huh.
education and the medical system, you know, that they can actually collaborate.
Okay, yeah.
But it seems that our industrial education system is doing the opposite, no? I mean, if I go to the school and I see 12-year-olds, and I don't know, I would say even 80% of the children are overweight. In the breaks, they go out to the next supermarket, they buy chips and energy drinks. 12-year-olds. Yeah? If they don't have healthy food in the school canteen or no meals at all. So it starts with very basic things. If they don't move, if they behave badly, like it was in the school where I taught, then the teacher tells them, now, because you didn't behave well during the class, you cannot stand up during the break.
Yeah, it was the same for me also.
Yeah, I mean, this is completely sick, no? Those kids are, what is natural to an animal to move, we are animals, is taken from you, especially when you're young. So there is a lot of, there are a lot of things happening that are really, really wrong, and they should be changed. Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Good. So again, do you want to have a little break, or do you want to continue one more chapter?
For me, we can continue
Continue?
as you prefer.
You were good?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay, then let's do one more. This is also a shorter one, but it's a very important one because now we nail down what is place-based education. So this is the central slide that gives already an overview. We have 4 pillars. Place-based education is a learning method which uses the school environment as a starting point for practical experiences. The focus here is on practical experiences. Number 2, neighborhood problems are recognized as the most important resources for learning. Think about how you went to school. Was there any time I made this, I asked myself this question, was there any time when I was a student that teachers gave us a problem that related to the neighborhood, or at least I would say to the school building or a school garden? And in 12 years, I couldn't remember a single time that this was the case. Can you quickly recall? It's
No,
usually not being done.
no, never happened.
What we have is just we have some walks. Like we have this history of the city, the subject. And then we had some walks and excursions around the neighborhood as well, because there was some culturally important buildings or something. So we sometimes went outside with the teacher just to like see some historical places around and discuss them.
Yeah.
Like we did some.
This is actually also very common here. I also noticed, but I mean, the way it works is that you have a senior guide who's telling you all the history and all the knowledge. Most of the kids don't listen. The boys are in the back and whoa, they make these faces. No, the girls maybe try to listen. I'm just being a stereotype, but this I have observed this many times, and it's a day out. They are not engaged in a problem. They are not asked to solve the problem. So I don't know how it was for you, but it's a kind of a outdoor guided class. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously, in St. Petersburg, there's a lot to see and a lot to learn. Nice city. So I continue. Do you see mine? No, it's stopped. Resume. How does this work now? Stop share. I need to resume. Does it work now?
Yes, yes.
And now it worked?
It took like 10 seconds, yeah.
Okay, this is a strange thing. So I think I need to start the presentation again. That never happened before. So here we are. So the third pillar is systems understanding. So when you are outdoors, you start to think about the problems that happen in a system or in an ecosystem in a very holistic way. And children can also build up empathy. So this is nature at large. It does not only mean a tree or plants or insects. It really means also the people that are living there. And the fourth and maybe most important pillar is that students are perceived as a resource to solve real problems. So in this method of teaching, there is an element which relates to logotherapy, because you provide students and actually also quite often teachers meaning and purpose, which many people in schools say that they are deprived of. So this is, I think, a very important element. Just to make this more tangible, you know that this is the standard book by David Sobel about place-based education. And one example that that I want to pick here from the book is actually an economic problem that a small town had. There was a candy shop that more or less had to close down if the business would not be revived. Now we can argue candy shops not healthy, should be anyway closed, but the owner of the shop asked the school for support, and this was an upper secondary school, and the students developed a marketing campaign for the shop, also including healthy candies. And this was then really applied in the school. So in the book, there are several different projects and examples. I just wanted you to understand, what does it mean to have a hands-on project? No, it can relate to nature, it can relate to economy, it can relate to society, different things. This means place-based learning. All right?
Yes.
Good. a few very important quotes that I picked out of David Sobel's book. It's a simple proposition, really: bring education back into the neighborhood, because quite often the books that we learn take us far away from the neighborhood. Knowledge of the nearest thing should be first acquired, then that of those farther and farther off. So this relates completely to the graph that I shared before, and also the continuum concept of Jean Lidloff, that you start basically in the womb of your mother, and from the womb you explore larger and larger circles until you reach a planetary scale. And some maybe are even lucky and make it into outer space. Not too many, but some do. Then he also acknowledges that changing a public school has never been an easy task. So there are a lot of obstacles. We're going to talk about them also today. Students need to be thought of productive assets to the health of a community. This is the fourth pillar that I just mentioned. A pedagogy of place then recontextualizes education locally. It makes education a preparation for citizenship, both locally and in a wider context. I think this is super important now. I think the health of a community is connected to a school, but what I experienced as a teacher is that this is never the case. Schools are completely separated, and I'm not talking here just about Austria. I'm talking here about China, what I've seen there in quite a lot of different settings.
Mhm.
And he is describing basically the United States. So I'm more and more questioning, is there a country where it is happening in a different way? And the last statement that he makes is state-mandated curriculum and high-stake tests. So this is classic for the industrial education. Put everyone on the same page on the same day and discourage and attention to significant nearby learning opportunities. That's also the truth. If you have to work several weeks, maybe even in preparation of a standardized test, then you focus completely on these assignments, and you would completely overlook what happens in your environment and vicinity.
Yeah.
So why place-based learning? That's also the cover page of the book. The results are clear. Place-based education fosters students' connection to the environment, and it creates vibrant partnerships between schools and communities. It increases student achievement and improves ecological, social, and economic vitality. I think this is really the core sentence from the book. And I'm always surprised that it's so difficult to implement.
Mm-hmm.
So then let's think about how could implementation work on a theoretical level. There are 4 lines of action for place-based educators that you just need to observe. One is you usually start with a state or a national curriculum, no? So you need somebody who works on curriculum integration. What does it mean? Curriculum integration does mean that you do not reject the national curriculum, but you merge it with what is happening and what is possible in the school environment. So it's never like this, that the national curriculum is complete bullshit. People that have thought about the curriculum, of course, usually are smart people with, I don't know, PhDs in education, and a lot of content in curricula is, of course, good and should be respected and also applied. The question is, how can this abstract curriculum be implemented on a local level in the school? And this is the work that needs to be done in curriculum integration. Then the second area on the right up is develop learning spaces beyond the school. This is the practical part, to map learning opportunities that are outside of the classroom. Very clear. I mean, we have all done this already, but I mean, usually we have like created one learning opportunity in one or starting at one school. Now think if an entire team of teachers thinks of the school environment as a learning space, as a learning opportunity, how many different mappings there would be and how many different learning opportunities there would be in an annual cycle. So it's a lot of work in the beginning, but once you have done it, it's all on the map, and you can access it very easily. Then the second or the third area is a community-based education. If you dropped out? Tau, okay. So community-based education obviously means that the school is not an office building where you commute to, but the school integrates with the neighborhood and becomes a part of the community. Also, this seems to be in reality super difficult because there are laws. I meanwhile know them in Austria quite well. There are laws that prohibit the school building being used for other purposes than classes. So usually you cannot, just because of the law already, let anything happen in the school building that has to do with the community at large. But I mean, if you want to do something that relates to the community, you need to bring community and students and teachers together. For this, you need a space. And what offers itself better or more than the school itself? So I think making a school building accessible to the community at large, that's the way it has been always, in the past. This should be also a focus. And the fourth pillar is school sustainability. This, I think, is something that in many schools is already done quite well. Here in our pilot project, there is a lot of space for improvement. Can you think of an example for school sustainability?
School sustainability.
We don't usually connect this with place-based education, but I mean, the school itself is, of course, also a place.
Mm.
And there are a lot of learning opportunities. Let me give you an example. If you don't come up with an idea, I give you an example.
Mm. But does it have to do about, I don't know, solar panels and recycling, things like that?
Why not? Yes, this is two good examples. Now, the school is usually quite a significant consumer of energy in any community, in any town, because you have maybe several hundred people in a building for long hours. You need to have lighting and so on and so forth. You need electricity. So one project could be that the students, under the guidance of, I don't know, a physics teacher, build a solar system. So that's hand-on school sustainability. Much easier would be waste separation recycling.
Mm-hmm.
It's not happening in this town. It's not happening. There is not a school because the school government or the city government does not equip the school with waste separation containers. What other possibilities are there? What actually came up to my mind before you mentioned PV is rainwater collection.
Mm-hmm.
So if a school actually develops, which would be already a place-based project, a school garden, then you need water, to water the plants, vegetables and herbs, and you can collect rainwater.
Yeah.
Right? And of course, this needs to be installed. You need to think where to install it, where do you need it, the water. So this also is part of this school sustainability. And of course, there are many, many more applications. And I just think, these are the projects that can involve not everybody, but a lot of students that might be actually bored by the theory that is being taught in classes, because this is hands-on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what are the requirements according to David Sobel to make place-based education happen? Principals and teachers need to commit on incorporating an environmental education focus. into the curriculum and allocate funds and teaching planning time to support the project. Usually, this is not happening. Field experiences in a natural setting are provided for the students at least twice a weekly basis. Actually, this is not David Sobel. I wrote that. If you think about it, in an annual on an annual basis, now, if you spend 2 days outdoors, 3 days indoors, digesting what you have learned, and the outdoors does not mean that you need to go very far. Maybe it's just a school garden, or it's several hours every day that you are in the school garden. But on an annual basis, I think two days a week would be a good amount of time. Teachers participate in professional development with a focus on environmental content and outdoor teaching strategies. Is still not part of the Austrian teaching curriculum. And you need to install a science and local history expert, a community outreach coordinator, and a project PR expert, a standards consultant, and a curriculum coordinator. Those are 6 roles that you need in a school in order to really get the curriculum integration on track. So it's also a management question. If you just tell all the teachers to work on place-based education, it's going to be chaos. You need to coordinate certain roles and give the lead for certain tasks to people that are suitable. So that's also very important. It is a management issue. To summarize, that's a direct quote from the book I mentioned. A teacher practicing place-based education sits comfortably on a 3-legged stool of academic achievement, and there are very good studies proving that case, social capital, and environmental quality. Mm-hmm. Now, actually, this, I think, is always the dot on the I, or the cream on the cake. Where do we get this academic achievement? The greatest gains in achievement, however, show up in urban schools with large numbers of minority students from groups low on the socioeconomic scale. If you think about that, this is exactly the situation that we have now in Europe. We get a lot of migrants from all over the world, especially in Western Europe, less in Eastern Europe. But now with the crisis in Ukraine, there are also a lot of migrants in Poland, in Czech Republic, so in traditionally very, very homogeneous societies. And the school systems are increasingly bifurcated. No, you have private schools where the locals go, and you have public schools where all the immigrants go. So, and there you have a lot of problems with academic achievement. The study indicates that these findings further support the educational benefit of experiential education, especially for those student populations that are experience poor. Here we can refer to screen time again, but also students with a migration background that are not allowed to spend too much time outdoors. And the third quote from the field, place-based education makes a greater difference for traditionally low achieving students, thereby helping to close the achievement gap between students in poor communities and those in more prosperous ones. So this is about equality. It's about opportunities. If we implement place-based education, we really give those who are low achieving students from poor backgrounds the opportunities to succeed. And we talked about this, of course, also before. You remember Howard Gardner and multiple intelligences. A lot of students that might not perform very well in these traditional cognitive skills, visual, auditory, cognitive tasks, they might actually excel in other forms of intelligence, and they are supported through place-based learning. So now we have a very interesting slide. I'm sorry, last slide to this chapter. about the obstacles. Maybe looks a bit complicated, but there are certain conditions to participate in innovation in an educational context. And here this slide shows 3 clusters: what you want to do, what you can do, and what you must do. And usually, you know, we react pretty fast for the must do. It's an obligation. The law tells you, the principal tells you, the school authority tells you, or there's a threat, you know, like I remember in '89 we had Chernobyl, the nuclear reactors melting. And then there was, of course, immediately a must. All the schools need to have iodium tablets, and there needs to be a training how to react in such cases. It was a threat. But if we want to do things, and when we can do things, we need to have a certain environment that actually enables it. So the can do relates to competencies. Are teachers capable of managing classes outdoors, as a question? Is there a good faculty communication to make curriculum integration happen? Do we get the necessary support from a principal? I can tell you in many cases we are failing in these questions. The answer is no. And this relates to the organizational frame conditions. Are the right people in charge? Do teachers have enough autonomy to actually plan classes outside of the classroom? Or does the principal tell you you're not allowed to leave the school building? Happens quite often. And then there is, of course, the want do. It has relation to work ethics, design possibilities, and incentives. If you are completely exhausted with teaching the classes that you have to teach indoors, but you do not get paid for developing outdoor settings and learning spaces outside of the classroom, then most teachers will just not want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is a very smart overview. I found it actually in a German book and translated it for the course, because it shows the complexity. We might see, you know, the tip of an iceberg, which looks good. I want to do this and we need to do it. So let's do it. But then there is underneath 2/3 or more that we don't see, which are obstacles. And from experience, I can tell you as a single teacher, I mean, if you have the support of the principal, maybe, but if you're a single teacher without the support of the principal, you can forget it. And usually you need to be a team of people with the support of the principal who has the competencies to do curriculum integration, that things work. It's a complex undertaking, and we have seen it. No, what we do is complex. No, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So the next slide is actually the brainstorming slide. But I can also go back to this. Is there anything that you want to share? Any thoughts that you have, maybe also from your experience?
Yeah, I don't know. From my time in school, I remember that teachers were super stressed. They had so many classes to attend to, and so many meetings with the other teachers. They just didn't have any time to think outside of the box. And every time we went outside on a school trip, we could feel that they were very, very, very anxious and stressed all the time, because if anything happened to one of us, they were liable. So, yeah, I mean, I can also understand why for them it could be difficult for sure.
Yeah, very good remark. And I made this presentation in a bit of a different way in town hall here in the town. And I actually spoke mostly for the teachers. I think teachers are, it's a very, very hard job nowadays, and it's getting harder and harder. And there is little support But you know, I mean, it's obvious we know that there needs to be a change. But of course, you cannot blame them. It's to a certain extent, I think you can, but mostly it's really the system that makes it very difficult. Luba, anything from your side?
What I just got the like some memories of my school time, and I think one of the most maybe active teacher who was really trying to involve us, get us involved in the at least like I don't know city environment. Actually, even more. It's not connected with like biology or anything. It was actually a choir teacher. We had the choir class and the concert choir, and always in addition to the normal classes, we was going to some performances around the city in the different schools in some competitions. I remember when I was in the sixth grade, we even had a trip to Czech Republic with a concert choir. Like it was of course extra curriculum, but she was doing it mostly on her own initiative. We took part in some choir performance competition, and that was her. I think now I understand that it was her effort. Like she wanted to connect us with the outer environment, not only in the school class when we just have the choir class, but we also get more involved in what's going on in the community, or even like out of the like our local community, like on a bigger scale. So actually, it was a great thing. But she, of course, did it only on her own initiative. She didn't have to do it, but she just wanted to, get us more included in what's going on around behind the school walls, and that was very valuable experience. I think maybe the most.
But a tremendous risk for her, and there are not that many teachers who dare to do it. I just recall the principal of my son who told me last year, because she's doing a lot, and I asked her, how do you do that? This is not normal, no? And she said, well, first of all, I'm a private school, but I also know that with everything I do, I'm with one foot in the prison. So she just is a risk taker. But of course, most teachers are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good. So my suggestion now from my side is that we have a 5-minute break. That's good?
Yeah.
Drink something, go to the toilet. Yeah, and then we meet again at 2:20. Is this good?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. Resume. And I need to find the right slide. It goes here. So, yeah. So what we continue with is the hippocampus. We already talked about it, so I'm going to do it very briefly. We have identified the hippocampus as the region that is really affected by the amount of space that is available to us for learning. And we also know as a bottom line now that the result of repeated spatial exploration is enhancing memory function and intellectual performance. This is what we need to remember. I think we don't need to go more here into the neuroscience. We have also seen the zones. Yeah. What we have not seen so far is how we can shape bioregional identities. So in order to work on curriculum integration, and in order to build a bioregional curriculum about the school environment, local nature and culture, you need to define an activity. It could be an excursion, a walk, it can be anything. You add species and specimens, you add features and points of interest, which could be also cultural, and then you create a route out of it. We call it route, but I mean, it could also be just in one specific space that you have as a learning destination. Why do we also focus on trees? Because trees are a keystone species, and we as humans are a tree-dependent species. If the trees are gone, we are gone as well. It's very simple. So this is why especially large trees always form very important mappings for our work. But, we'll come to this in a second. A history teacher might think, not interested in trees. I want to focus just on other things. We have this concept map, which shows that if you have a school in the center as zone 0, you can create these routes to different destinations. And in the end, you develop a sort of a run and jump game that needs to be played in the real world. We also have a glossary, important terms that we use in the project. Trail is usually how we call the general learning format, which combines several points of interest. POI is a point of interest. The route is a trail which is guided by nature guides offline. So you have somebody guiding you. And this is opposed to the quest, which is a digitally supported trail that can be played alone or in a multiplayer mode, usually using geocaching, but also QR codes are possible. Then you have a quiz. A quiz is also offline, where we have where we hand out printed a printed questionnaire that students have to fill in. It's a sort of a treasure of hunt format and can be used age 6 to 12. You need to be able to write to apply it. The treasure hunt itself can be also done. We do it every year during our summer camp. It's for kindergarten children or up till the age that they can write. And instead of giving them a quiz, we hide in a delineated, restricted area. It could be a park, wooden ghosts. I mean, you can hide any other object, and the children need to find them. They need to collect them. Big friendly giants are old trees that can be mapped and then also found by participants. And the mobile campus is just this general kind of term that we use as opposed to the classroom, that we go outdoors and connect the classroom, the school building with the environment. And we use, we use the Internet of People Services, Things and Nature. That's why it's called Mobile Campus 4.0, to support this learning method. So I don't think that we need to brainstorm here on this. We jump immediately into the gamified learning environment. So gamification is a very important part of what we do with place-based learning. Gamification can be integrated in the activity itself, or there's an overarching gamification. What is gamification? It's doing meaningful things with fun and endurance. A lot of it can be learned from video games, where children, youth, and also adults are absorbed for certain psychological reasons. And you apply the same kind of mechanisms to learning. So this is gamification. We currently have a big discussion on screen time. We also talk about this a little bit later, but gamification tries to distill the positive side of it. And what can you do with gamification? You can communicate scientific insights, which are usually very difficult to understand. And this is definitely something that we try to do through place-based environmental education. Our standard example, of course, are ecosystem services. But I think from the past, you also know that we talk or we did projects on watersheds, on water bodies. And it's also something very complicated to explain in a classroom setting, but through a walk, it's possible. Yeah, what kind of gamified formats do we already have as flagship formats? And it doesn't mean that this is an exhaustive list. It's just what we do. We do trash collections in a gamified manner. I see that this slide is completely in German. But anyway, trash collection, we call it Plastic Pirates. We have Big Friendly Giants, which is about understanding ecosystem services and trying to create ideas on how to also design and support the development of the school environment. And then there's also a gardening project that we call Groovy Garden and Healing Herbs, which basically helps the school to extend learning into the immediate school environment, the school garden. Yeah, the overview slide for Big Friendly Giants, where they turn into ecosystem heroes, is about mapping, decorating, protecting, collecting, and learning in the school ecosystem. And the gamification here works both offline and online. Participating students can collect points, and they get badges if they complete certain levels. Have you actually already checked your current level? I recently got level 5, and I have to say, if you have level 5 in the Commons, we have, I think, 650 mappings here, and I have now recently got the level 5 badge. It means that you have a very, very deep understanding of the local ecosystem. You have seen a lot of details. You have usually asked questions to it. And that's the far end goal of this project, that children are really knowledgeable about their hometowns, and not only knowledgeable, because what they know, they will also love and respect. So they become stewards of their hometowns in a gamified manner. We have one detail that is also a gamification element. It's those cards that can be created. So every element that is being mapped can be collected as a digital element, such a card, but the cards can be also printed. And there are several elements of information that make it very, very local, even though the technology behind it and the concept behind it can be applied globally. You, for example, here add the municipal coat of arms, so you know where the mapping has taken place. You can give trees a name. You see the ecosystem services, cooling. You see the tree species, the CO2 storage, the circumference girth of the tree, the bioregion code, biodiversity richness, the age, the height, the stormwater runoff, and the air pollutant removal. So quite a lot of information, and you can collect these cards and even play with them. And on the left side, we just explain where this data comes from. It's really not that much developed by us. So we have external partners or existing applications where we source this data. The only thing that is really done in the course of the project are the mappings and measuring of the tree, and then creating these cards. But the data in the background is coming from external suppliers. Oh, the height was missing and the tree code. So I think we can also jump over this, because we as a team, we know very well how this works. And we go now into the mobile campus implementation. The fundamental understanding is that the learning and conservation space is the city at large, the hometown at large, maybe even the region. But it makes sense to really think here also about age groups. When we start to go outdoors, you can start, of course, early, but I mean, recommended is 3rd grade elementary school to start going outdoors and explore different neighborhoods and the school environment. And doing this, you transform the experience of education and connect to nature spaces. You can understand the climate crisis much better. And why is it important to do it in a city and not in a national park? Because most people live in cities. No, it's definitely more than half of the global population. In countries like Italy, I don't know for Russia, but in countries like Italy or Austria, it's far more than 80% of the people living in cities. And this means this is where children grow up, and that's where they can learn about nature and in nature. Yeah, Japan is even more. And of course, in the cities, we also produce most of the CO2 emissions. So we need to really understand hands-on how we can reduce our CO2 footprint. The project pillars in this setting is the national park concept. We consider our hometown as a national park and use it for both conservation and education purposes. We apply the internet of nature to support the learning progress. We create a gamified learning environment. I explained it before. And what is also very important and relates to place-based education, almost everybody can participate. So this is called massive open participation. It's not only all the students, it could be any citizen in a town. So we think of cities as cradles for bioregional identities. What you see here is an overview map of European bioregions. We are currently here at this intersection of PA 12 West, PA 14, and PA 13. Yeah, Mary, where are you from?
I think I am in between PA 13 and PA 19.
Okay. What about you, Liuba?
It doesn't show here, but maybe it will be P10. Oh no, P10 is that. I can't see the whole thing, but I know that this.
Yeah, I think as a place-based educator who also tries to use the or works towards a bioregional identity, you should really know your own bioregional code. I lived for a long time in PA 50, which is the Yangtze River Delta. And now I'm mostly in PA 12, but we explore quite often in our projects also PA 14, the Pannonian mixed forests. Try to really get this into your head because this is your starting point. This is where you are from. We talked about this already, so I don't mention it anymore. But we have a couple of pictures here to show how this could look like hands-on. And what is important to mention is this slide, because we see here the process of exploring and experiencing, but then also turning the students into game designers. They create something on their own, especially in upper secondary, and then they can present and guide. So this is a sort of an empowerment in the third step. And I'm quite curious, this year we have 2 upper secondary schools, if they can actually take this leap to also present to local citizens and maybe tourists, guests to their hometown, yeah, to guide what they have experienced and designed on their own. From our pilot project in St. Pölten, a very old card, how we started. Now we have this all on our app, but we mapped more than 400 old trees. As a pillar of an outer curriculum, we connected them and later on also different mappings, cultural mappings into routes. And currently there are more than 30 such routes, which can be adapted, but they are easy starting points and also pretty safe starting points for teachers to go outdoors with their students. In order to do this, we have several roles. I told you before about the roles, the 6 roles that David Sobel recommends for curriculum integration in schools. And we add on this several roles and responsibilities that we use in our terminology. They can definitely overlap with what David Sobel uses, but you always start as a learner. You can be then a facilitator, a community mentor, a commons mentor, an eco-region mentor. I think I don't go into detail now because we discuss it then with the ARC. but in the end, we have 3-hour trainings for each level of mentoring, and people are in charge of different responsibilities to basically work on the curriculum integration. Yeah, this is almost a bit of a scary slide, but it shows the process, and it's kind of also a cheat sheet on how to develop a route. I'm just gonna go through this sheet with you. Yeah, in an overview. You see here there's an exploration, explore, then create, build, and extend. Those are the 4 big phases that you need to follow in order to develop a place-based learning format. The exploration is really something that is super important in the beginning. You need to talk to the teacher locally. You need to talk to people that are in charge, and you need to ask them what they actually want. So really listen, ask, and let people explain, and then start with the route design. Yeah, I got an email this morning from the project in the south of Vienna, technical school. They want to have an additional call after we had already 2 calls and a lot of emails. So this is really important before we start with a project. Everybody should have a clear understanding what we're going to do, where we're going to do it, and what is the real application. Why do they want to have this this project? And then you start with the mapping. We know that this process is quite complex, but green means here that it's nature related. Yellow means that it's culture related. And then you build the quest, and maybe also build some infrastructure that is related to this trail. And we see here that every trail has these 3 different applications: guided offline route, a digital online quest, and a guided offline quiz, different age groups. And of course, I mean, developing such a format can always be an entry point to extend different formats on top of it. Yeah. So if you have several routes, you could consider in a school to create an album on top of it where children could collect the BFG cards. You could build route infrastructure that students brainstorm on and think, this is something that we would need here. And you could turn this into a crafting workshop. You could also think about a space that has been developed or found, that you design a nature theater, a drama workshop. So there are many, many things which happen then outdoors in connection with the place. And this could be the extension from the initial exploration that we do when we build such a route. Yeah, I also just show this. It's another cheat sheet that we developed that shows really step by step on how to create in a team a trail. We don't do this here, but cheat sheet is available. So there's a clear process to follow in this course. What I want to mention here, but I see this is also German, is that in the integration in the course of the year, and we talk here about a temperate climate zone, it really makes sense to think about when to do what. So now we have spring, and I wrote here annual boarding 25-26. So the schools that start with us now, they would actually do the exploration and the creation. They start this now. And this entire schedule that I created here as a template, it would shift a bit, yeah. But the standard idea would be that you start in fall, because this is when the school year starts. in fall, you explore the local environment, you do map points of interest, so you have a basic understanding. In the winter period, you can create indoors the routes, the trails, the quests. You do digital work. You can also do some of the workshops that we have for indoors. And then in spring, you evaluate what you have built. You really walk the routes. You let different classes explore them, and you consider building infrastructure and doing hands-on workshops. And then during summer holidays, when the students have actually become already very knowledgeable, they could, in a setting usually of a smaller town, also turn into guides, guiding family, guiding friends, guiding guests. So this is all possible. And of course, if you cannot do everything in one school year, then you can do it over several years. So what is the relevance to specific subjects? I think I made here a couple of examples, but almost every subject can be also taught outdoors, not to the extent that all of it can be done outdoors, of course not. But when we create such a place-based project format, then a lot of different skills are necessary. And I think it's important to mention this in the beginning. We do a lot of translation, no? And you wouldn't be thinking of translation when you talk about environmental education. But one project that we had last fall was in an area where Slovenian and German is spoken. And so all the content created needs to be made available at least in those two languages. So it requires that somebody does the translation work. And you could then use a place-based learning format also for language education. You can include music, and include history, math, pretty much every subject. So place-based curriculum integration just creates a framework that then needs to be merged with the subjects that are anyway taught in the school. In lower secondary in Austria, there are cross-curricular topics that need to be taught, and I did a scaling here. So 10 means it meets this cross-curricular topic absolutely. 1 or 0 would mean it does not meet it at all. And I just pick here once. Informatics education, computer science education is a cross-curricular topic that should be taught in all subjects. And we know that our work here has, of course, also to do with digital literacy. So I added 10. Yeah, the only 0 here is sex education. There's nothing really about this, but even here, I mean, sometimes you can talk about this when you go outdoors and you talk about reproduction in nature. It's definitely not a focus, but you see here I added a 0. So a lot of the cross-curricular topics that are required in Austrian lower secondary education can be also achieved with place-based formats. That's the summary. Yeah, and for schools, if you create place-based formats, then you have a couple of USPs. I think it's a safe, pretty safe, not completely safe, but a pretty safe, captivating alternative to indoor classes, which extends your institution seamlessly to the city and beyond. For the children participating and really also building it, I think it could be fun, and it is quite often fun. And they learn about ecosystem services and probably also get step by step an understanding that they can provide ecosystem services on their own. For teachers, it's a support to structure an outdoor learning space and unfold different intelligences, which is really difficult in the classroom setting. You can develop a global curriculum on ecological intelligence and systems awareness. And parents, when they use or also create an account on the ARC, they can of course also watch the children on their learning journey and ask them, so what have you observed today? And children can share the insights. Not easy, but at least you have a connection point. No, I know I'm asking my son, he's 13 now, almost every day, what have you learned today? And I basically don't get an answer. No, if I have on an app the ability to see, oh, they were exploring this and this, and you see that he has observed those and those species, I could really quiz him a little bit over dinner. So that's the idea behind it, that parents can strike up a conversation about things that have been seen in the hometown, um, maybe on the same day. Good. Anything that you want to share here? The next little chapter is an overview of the BFG workshops. We will do that very quick.
I just think it's good that you have a clear concept of how it can be implemented in the school system. And you usually don't think about it like this, but when you really dive into deeper and see all these examples, I think it's very inspiring. It could be very inspiring for the teachers who would make the children's course. They as well, and see like from a different perspective how it can be.
And they will be reluctant, of course, we have seen this overview slide, do they have the resources? Do they have the competences? Do they have the time? Do they have the incentives? Are they paid for this if they need to chip in additional time? So gonna have a phone call, I think tomorrow, with this one school in the south of Vienna, and I'm already quite curious, because in the beginning it is a lot of effort. It is something new, so it needs to really be an added value for the school. And that's why I think it's also good that we have past projects to share. Okay, then a quick overview on the BFG workshops. Some of them we have already done together. We have this overview slide. If you have then the PDF slide deck, you can click here on each of the workshops and you can directly open them on our learning platform. We usually start in place-based learning with a community map, completely offline. Every student takes a sheet and the task could be to map the school building, map the school garden, can be in a very, very safe place, but they get an understanding of what is mapping, what do I pay attention to. You can relate this to emotions. You can let them map places they like very much in red, places they don't like in blue. So you can really do also emotional maps. Very, very interesting exercise, which I would like to do again in a school. We have a carousel activity where we introduce the concept. We did it during the Night of Science in a not very good setting, I have to say. But the carousel activity introduces the basic terminology of ecosystem services, yeah, important words. In an indoor setting, could be also done outdoors. Then we have a typical winter workshop. When it's cold outdoors, then you can do the workshop on eco and bioregions, also on ecosystem services. And then ideally in spring, or when you start in fall, already in fall, you can do the mapping workshop. And then there is the culture mapping, so how to map points of interest that relate to culture. Then there's the route design and quest design workshop, how to integrate route stories, how to do the tree decoration, and how to create collectible BFG cards. Those are the 10 workshops which are in a standardized manner with worksheets and solution sheets online. And we have here a little bit of impressions. So this is a community map workshop that I did in a 7th grade class. You see they are outdoors in the garden. They all get a sketchboard, a pencil, an eraser, And the task is to map the school garden as they see it. This is always a really exciting exercise to start off with. The carousel activity we did here with Gloria, actually in a primary school, in their school garden, and we had certain places where the kids had to go, and they had a quiz, and they needed to answer questions, and they got an introduction to this idea of place-based education, not in a pedagogical manner, of course, but just as a learner, as a user. Ecoregion and bioregion, the focus is here to really understand that these territories of eco and bioregion can help us in many, many different ways to maintain peace, for education, for health, for the conservation of biodiversity. The ecosystem services are explained on the left side. You see, for example, through a lab book that students need to create, and they get a basic understanding that we live in a world where we are dependent of other species because they provide services which are life-sustaining for us. And on the other way around, we also try to instill here this awareness that we as human beings can also provide ecosystem services to our environment. If you are a friend supporting somebody who is suffering, then you provide also in a certain way an ecosystem service to that person. If you take care of a beehive, or you take care of a tree that is being suffocated with a parasite, then you provide also ecosystem services. So it's this idea that we are part of an ecosystem that relies on each other. The tree mapping is a very hands-on workshop where we use ropes, and we, you see this on the right side, learn to measure the girth of a tree, the circumference. Which trees have you already measured? When you look at those 9 pictures, have you done all of them? The lower left corner, I think this would be a mangrove forest tree. I haven't done that.
Let's see. The first one, the second, third one, fourth one, yes. Fifth, I don't remember. No, from 5 on, I don't remember. Maybe the last one, yes.
I think we did something like the fifth, but it was more than 2, more than 2 chunks. Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I also didn't do a fallen tree yet. Yeah, interesting. So, but anyway, it's very hands-on for the kids to do something almost like an arborist. Then we have the culture mapping, where we can go to a city archive, for example, and dig out information about the cultural background. Why do trees grow in a certain place? Why does any plant or why does any animal exist in a certain place? So you can extend this. Then the route and quest design to really standardize these paths so that they can be actually reused. Integrating route stories. Yeah, we have Alice in Wonderland somewhere. I don't even know the picture down here. This is some Roald Dahl story, I think. The tree decoration and the collectible cards. And here you see also a mock-up of a collectible album that could be created. So all this can be done, and we have the workshops online. Yeah, let's continue with measurement and visualization of learning progress. So I quote here in the beginning Abraham Maslow, one of the, I think most famous psychologists so far. who thought a lot about education and said that the far goal of education is to aid the person to grow to the fullest humanness, the greatest fulfillment and actualization of his highest potential. I think by now we know that in the classroom setting only, you cannot achieve this goal. And with standardized tests like PISA, we also don't seem to do a good job. So the question is how we can do it now. Zoe is actually today here in the room. This is the first Austrian grade report that she got, the school report that she got in 2022. I think it was 2021 actually, I'm not sure anymore. And on the left side, there's a report that I got in 1988. And when she got the first report here in Austria, I was, yeah, flabbergasted, I think you say, because nothing really changed in more than 40 years. Is it more than 40 years? More than 30 years. So still the same subjects are being taught. And the question is if this should change. One concept that talks about a change in teaching is the triple focus by Daniel Goleman and Peter Senge. And they say that all learning should have as a far goal the growth of an inner focus, an outer focus, and an other focus. Other means towards other people, inner to ourselves, and outer to the world at large. And we have simplified this at Green Steps to me, us, and the planet. And that's the triple focus. Me is us as learners. Us is the community in which we are, which we relate to. And outer is the planet. And this is being gamified on the Arc with badges as well. And when you learn or teach or take care of nature, you can get points and you can collect badges. Are you aware where you are currently in these categories? Well, when we talk about the Arc, we can show it where we are currently. Yeah, and I forgot, everybody who joins the project also gets, of course, a spirit animal. Here I know that actually starting from last week, I'm now a creative or horse. My spirit animal changed. I'm not anymore an eel. I was an eel for 15 years. So tough. Good. So it's really a lot today. But we have only one more short chapter to go. This is about how to scale it globally. It's about bioregional education. Should we have a quick break and then continue?
As you prefer.
Should we have 5 minutes break?
Yeah.
Good. So then I stop the recording, stop share, pause the recording. So, and I share again slide deck, share, I press on, and I need to find the right slide, which is here. Yeah, Adri is a good presenter, but I think, Mary, you're going to present this now.
Mm-hmm.
So the third part is how can our approach of connecting place-based learning with bioregional education become a global approach? And is there a global impact possible? Mary, the floor is yours. Whenever you need a new slide, you just tell me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so wait. So the way that Green Steps think about space now is that the smallest entity is a tree, for example, or a point of interest. And then with many different trees and points of interest, we create routes. The routes are located in the commons, and each common is located, of course, in an ecoregion. And the largest unity of space is the planet. And by understanding first the small unit and then the larger ones, the goal, let's say, what we hope for is that children, but also adults, get a better understanding of the system and explore and learn more about the place where they live, but also maybe also larger places, other regions in the world. And through a sense of knowledge, they also develop a sense of interest, of love and passion for nature, for example. And through this, they also develop a sense of conservation, the desire to protect what's out there. Next, I guess. So this is a map of the world as we are used to see it in schools and everywhere. And these are the nation states with very clearly defined, sometimes very geometrical borders. And what we hope for is in the next slide, hopefully. Yeah, so what we need to do is to change our view of the world. And to make this, we need a new slide. So this is the new map of the world. Basically, scientists have studied data from years and years of monitoring and research. And in around 2017, a team of scientists have developed the concept of ecoregions. And there is now a list of 800 and I think 44 ecoregions in the entire world. And as we can see, they don't follow at all, almost, the nation states' borders. But here, yes, we can see actually bioregions, I think. And yes, the bioregions and the ecoregions. And so the different colors are basically areas of the world where the community of plants and animals is more or less the same. So in each of these ecoregions, we found, let's say, a similarity in plant species and animal species. What else can I say about this?
Yeah, I think it's good. As a start, we have a workshop about this. We mentioned it before, which takes about 6 hours with several exercises, hands-on.
Yeah.
A lot of different tools are being explored to understand this concept more in depth. The application is the next slide.
The application, yes. So wait, let me think about this. So on the right, we see Cascadia. The Cascadia movement is a movement that originated in the US, and it proposes a new territory, let's say, called Cascadia, that unites parts of different current US states and I think part of Canada. And the idea is to use the concept of, ecoregion, we can say, to instead of the concept of nation state. And these has different applications. The first one is nature conservation, we can see, because, for example, it would be much easier to protect an area or, let's say, a forest that is not divided into different municipalities, because then to do anything, you need the approval from different people, different politicians, so it's much more complicated. So also preservation and restoration of biodiversity would be easier for the same reason. Sustainable economy and governments. And then we would have the concept of peace that is very important because very often conflicts arise because we are ignoring the bioregional borders, let's say. And also education and health would benefit from this. In particular, education, as we were saying, place-based education, hopefully, would be easier if we took in consideration ecoregions instead of man-made political borders. What else?
Yeah, it's good. I think it's good.
Okay.
Maybe because I just read a little bit the details of Cascadia. We didn't mention it before. Of course, underlying to all the life that we see, flora and fauna, are the water bodies now that are the source of all life on Earth. And here, especially in Cascadia, it's visible that it's called Cascadia is a land of falling waters where water or winds and clouds from the oceans are driven by the wind against the Rocky Mountains. And in the Rocky Mountains, the water evaporates or just rains down, and then it turns into ice, into snow, or it melts, and then again into rivers. It empties itself into the sea. So the water cycle is also an enormous important element of bioregions. Because I think it's very very visual, but also if we think of Pannonian mixed forests, it's basically the basin in which the Danube empties itself. It's very much related to the Danube, a single large river. Also with two borders of two mountain ranges, the Alps and the Carpathian Mountains, in which this basin lies. So water is always very central. Yeah, how to do that? How to scale?
With the arc, of course.
With the arc, of course. This is how we use technology, appropriate technology. And we think that the arc is here a tool for social environmental regeneration. I think nowadays with especially schools starting to be more and more critical of screen time, it is important to also emphasize there is a good way to use technology. And that's how we designed the arc as a tool for learning, for conservation, and knowing our habitats better. Next slide, I think you can explain again what the arc really is.
Okay, so we use data and sometimes definitions from other organizations and platforms. For example, we get the species information from Wikipedia, although you can also put them in manually. I don't remember honestly the logos for One Earth is the one on the left for the eco and bioregion.
Exactly, yeah. So eco and bioregions, I don't think that we have additional information here. Eco and bioregion definitions, so all the data on these territories comes from two American NGOs, One Earth and Resolve.
Resolve, yeah. Okay. And ecosystem service formula from I3 and
from I3, this is also again an American organization, and the Center for Climate Adaptation, I think is it called, at the TU Munich. They helped us with this.
Okay. And for every country, for the nature monuments, you can get data from the government, I guess, right?
Yeah, sadly not every country, but more digitalized countries have the data public available, and we also use that. So in the end, what stays actually on the arc, what is data that we need to generate is that people use it as learners, And we do the mappings of trees and other points of interests. This is what we generate ourselves, and everything else we use other open source projects. Right. So in the end, the ARC is a hub that connects people with nature deeper. And this is also the application of this new form of environmental education, where we use the Internet of Nature. Now, the Internet of Nature integrates these three previous steps of the Internet development: Internet of People, Services, and Things. That's the idea here. And I think in this regard, technology can be very meaningful. And to summarize this, because we have another chapter which is too much today on the threats and the risks and the problems with digital education. It is important that people know how we use technology. So it's a very interesting quote from an American educator, Zachary Stein, who made or wrote this during the COVID crisis, when so many schools shifted completely to digital instruction. And he said, you know, this is not what we should or how we should use technology. Technology should only provide universal access to information through useful, well-organized and curated content. So it is a resource that should support learning. But in the end, how should learning happen? It is through sustained interpersonal relationships, emotional connection, embodiment, and dynamically interactive hands-on experiences. And this is what we do with place-based learning. You need to get outdoors, and it's not only hands-on. I also like to call it foot on, no? Because we walk.
Yes.
All right. That's it for today. So I think it's time to quickly look into the assignments, unless you want to say something before that. Luba, anything on your mind?
I think it's quite clear.
Yeah. And you are also not new to this. I thank you very much for joining today. So in regard to week 2, I'm sharing now again this assignment overview, which you also find in the cloud. In regard to week 2, we have again 4 little videos. The first one is by Stephen Johnson. He is an author, American author, who wrote a very interesting book called Where Good Ideas Come From. And you should explore his talk and apply it to learning and think how it connects to place-based learning. In a nutshell, the more you see, the more you can actually also come up with new ideas. Then a second talk, I think we have seen this one actually already together, is by a Japanese architect who designs a kindergarten. And we need to think about how can we apply this concept to primary and secondary education, maybe even tertiary university education. The third talk I think you haven't seen is the famous Ellen MacArthur, who sailed around the world alone in a boat, in a sailing boat. And again, you think, what did she learn that you can't learn in a classroom? And the last one I know we did together in the Bioregional workshop is the overview video. And you could explain what is the overview effect. So for you, actually, it just means Stephen Johnson and Ellen MacArthur. I think the other two you have done already, no?
Yes.
Good. That's it. And next week, we're going to meet again here in the office, because we need to be in person and really do hands-on stuff. We continue next week with the practical life. One of they actually say it's the core, the heart of the Montessori method.
Okay.
All right. So then I definitely stop recording now.